We are super excited to have everybody with us today. I'm going to go ahead and officially welcome all of you to this week's Future of Work virtual roundtable series here with Immersion. And what's really exciting is that we're going to do things a little bit different today. So as I said, I've tossed Patti's bio up there so you can take a little look at that as we're going through things. I'm going to remind everybody you are going to want to have a piece of paper and a pen or a pencil on you. For anyone who I haven't met, my name is Jamie Thomason. I have the honor of hosting our Immersion Virtual Roundtable series.
Hey, everybody, how are you? It's so fantastic to see all of you. I'm Patti Dobrowolski with Up Your Creative Genius, and I'm a live illustrator and keynote speaker. I'm obsessed with this topic of imagination because I've had some amazing things happen. So I want you to first off, be sure to get a piece of paper. And as we're kind of talking, etc., I want you to draw what's up here just to get yourself warmed up, because that's where we're going to go. And also just know that we'll be freely using the chat. You could see that I'm always putting stuff in there. Thank you, Samantha. I love that you're here. That's fantastic. So I can't wait to get us into the meat of it. But Jamie, I'll turn it back over to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Patti. Yep.
Oh, okay. Jamie, did I make it? Am I on time? Hi, Patti. How are you? I'm so glad to be here.
Oh my God, Serena, cool.
Serena.
Hi. Well, hi. How are you? How is everything? I'm sorry. I'm fangirling out like crazy right now.
Okay, now I know I started this by saying, we're going to do things a little differently, but Serena, that was because we didn't plan to actually do a demo today.
Oh no,
we really wanted to give Patti the space and everybody a chance to do all this. So I didn't know you were on the docket. I mean, I don't mind you being here, but
hi. No, Alina. Hi, Lena. Hi.
Oh my God.
Am I on time?
Hi, Lena.
Yes. Yeah, Jamie, we're not here to participate as like avatars in the scenario. I'm actually curious about what's going to be happening here today. So I'm a participant. I'm just here to see what's going on.
Me too.
Oh.
Well, this is all about imagination and curiosity and opening ourselves up to new possibilities. So Patti, I know it was supposed to just be you and me. Do you mind if Serena and Alina join us today?
Are you kidding? I love having you here. That would be fantastic. I was a drama therapist, so having you here, this is going to be so great. We're going to get to test some things and try some things. I can't wait. You'll be okay to be on point and do a few role plays with us, will you?
Whatever you need. We're here for you.
Awesome. Oh my God.
Okay, well, I love it. Well, that's what we exist to do, right? Is that role play. So next slide. Serena, you want to take this one?
Welcome everyone. To those of you who are with us for the first time, let's tell you a little bit about Immersion and who we are. We are all about VR for social effectiveness. Immersion provides a safe space for practicing difficult conversations as well as high stakes leadership skills. So whether that's motivating an underperforming team or de-escalating interoffice conflict, adapting different work styles to improve team performance, or creating an inclusive workspace. Our virtual platform allows your learner the ability to get comfortable with the practice so they can apply it in future conversations. And our roots were sown in education, but we have since expanded to corporate, learning and development, healthcare, even government and defense contracts, just to name a few. Alina, why don't you tell them how we do this?
Certainly. So the human in the loop is what makes Immersion so very special. And how Immersion works is we have a simulation specialist who is our human in the loop. They work in conjunction with artificial intelligence to drive customizable avatars in a multitude of environments so learners can practice difficult conversations and gain the confidence and competence needed to face those challenging situations in the real world.
Awesome.
How did I do?
You did great. Thank you so much, you guys. And when we started planning this, I have to admit, I got on with Patti and I'm like, Patti, here's the problem. Like, we could go anywhere with this. Like, what imagination? There's so much we could use it to build on so much of what we talk about and what we do. Like, we could talk about anything and everything. And so guess what? We are going to talk about imagination itself, the force that powers everything. So let's have at it.
Okay, fantastic. First off, everybody put in the chat what you believe the imagination is. Like, what is imagination? Tell me what you know about it. Tell me, but anything that imagination, you're working with it in wonder and imagination is social change. Fantastic. Unlimited possibilities, freedom. All right, so we're going to just put some of these things up here. Freedom, unlimited possibilities. I'm probably off screen, but I'm just going to put them up here so that later when I send this to you. Okay, good. And then I'll come back and look at that chat again, just to see what else you said. Freedom, envisioning, being creative, to life, future potential, the ability to create any scenario, creation, stronger when I was younger, declines with age. In fact, okay, that's fantastic. That's a great place to start. So your imagination, when you're a child, your imagination works freely. Like if you want to role play a scenario, you're in the scenario. You put on the hat and you're racing on some pony. You're surrounded by a bunch of people. You have to overcome some sort of challenge, or maybe you're just playing with anything that is there. So we use our imagination freely and we have these imaginary friends, right? Until a certain age where we're kind of stopped in that whole process and we're brought back to reality. Now, these are two parts of our brain that are actually working. One is abstraction, which is what our brain does when it's on, kind of defaulting and it's daydreaming. Right? If you take a walk and you're not really working a problem, if you are in the shower or you're just doing some kind of repetitive exercise, then you're in this state of abstraction. And this state of abstraction really, or this alpha state, is where all of the cool things happen, right? And that's our imagination. Now, in my universe, I consider the imagination to be linked to creative genius. Like we always think of creative genius like Einstein was a creative genius. But in fact, in the old days, a creative genius was seen as an entity that lived in the walls of your house, and you could call on the creative genius to get an answer to a solution, right? People went to the oracle because they felt like that was a place they could access their creative genius. And what's happened over time is that the Romans decided they would attach it to a person so that then people were that, and then they could control people based on that. This is the person who has the answers. And what's true is we all have access to it. And imagination is something that we do every moment of every day. Anytime you are handling a problem, right? You're accessing your imagination. Now, sometimes you're accessing what is the second part of your brain, which is the control function. That's the task-driven part of it. It's analytical. It's going to problem solve for you. So when you are in a stressful situation, it defaults to control. And in the control state, then it does not just try to help you figure out how to get out of it. It sends cortisol into your system. So this other abstraction part of you goes behind the scenes. And it's way in the background. This is like, if you can imagine the stage, this is now you're back in the dressing room fixing your costume, right? Because you're not going to be able to come to the forefront until the cortisol is resolved. And one way that you can actually get yourself to be open to new ideas is to draw, because drawing integrates all parts of your brain, and it's shown to have decreased your anxiety. And also the other piece is that if you simply draw the infinity symbol in the air like this, so just do that first, because now we're going to do a little bit of drawing with our imagination and accessing it, but I want you to be calm about it. Not worry about if your drawings look good, right? So anything that you do, you have to turn to that and say, that is fantastic, because we're rewiring that, right? So we got to get those neurotransmitters dinging the, yes, fantastic. So I'm just going to doodle right here on my horizon line that I did, these little mountains. I'm just going to doodle there with my pen. I don't care how it looks. I'm not worried about it. I'm just getting warmed up. And I want you to do that too. Just get warmed up. Anything that you think, oh, that'd be fun. Well, I'm going to make the sun look like it's got some things. And then this looks, ooh, we're going to be talking about something that looks like challenges to me. And that's what we're going to do. All right. So now, how many of you actually are drawing right now? Put that in the chat. I want a hand raise. or I want a yes, very good. Look, Serena's doing it. I love it. Okay. All right. You felt so unlike, and that control comment. Yes, that's right. Fantasy and artistry. Stress defaults to control. That's right. And so when you're working with a team, you can imagine when they're worried about their job, how they're in that state, and it's impossible for them to brainstorm new ideas. Think about strategy for the future. They can't even envision the future because they're so afraid in the environment that we're in. And that's what COVID's done to many of us. If you watch the news, any of that, that puts you in your control state. So you're trying to control everything, and you can see how it polarizes people. You make up stories about everything because it takes you to your negative bias. Any kind of unconscious bias you have, it taps it right away. It takes it right up to the surface. You're in your unconscious bias, acting from that place instead of being open. So you want to really relax yourself. So why is that important, right? So when we can, what happens in our default or our negative bias is that when we're up against a challenge, for example, we default to what was known. And when we are challenging ourselves to become different in any way or change something that we're doing or having a conversation that we're unfamiliar with, then we default to that old way of doing things. And we kind of grip onto the ways we've always responded. And so we relive constantly with our imagination this old way of being, our old selves. But we can untether ourselves from that. And so I was reading something that James Altucher was talking about. He was talking about the box that you live in, right? And that we often live inside this box that we construct, which is our vision of reality. But we have to get untethered from the box and imagine the best case scenario. But first, you got to understand, like, what is the box you're living in? So the first part of this, I want you to, I drew a box up here that says physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. And I got this from Tara Swart, who is a neuroscience and a medical doctor. And she's got a great book out. It's called The Source. I love it. I had to look at the title to make sure I got it right, but she's amazing. I met her on Clubhouse. I got her book right away. And I learned so much more even about how the brain works when we're thinking about this abstraction versus control. And one of the activities that she suggests in this book is that you make this box of these things. And then you first start by thinking about a time when you were not successful, that you really didn't do a good job at something. And I want you to just imagine and remember the experience of not doing well at something. It doesn't have to have happened in this year. It could have been something else that happened. And then if you would put in the chat first, what do you remember about the emotional part of it, how you felt? How did you feel when you did that thing and it didn't go very well? Shame, thank you. How else did you feel when it didn't go very well? Disappointed, yes. Stupid, drained, guilty, yes. Fantastic, guilt, right. Broken and depressed. Okay, how about in your body? What did you feel in your body? What did you feel in your body? What were you feeling? Like, how did your body feel? Cold and clammy, yes. Tense. Stomach, yes, fantastic, of course, anxious. And then when you think about it in a mental, what kind of mental state did it put you into? What was your mental state? Yeah, defeated, dark, yes. And then when you think about, and I'm using this word spiritual in a bigger sense. So this could be however you connect to the universe, like what did happen to this part of you, the part that knows you're connected to everything. What did that part feel? When you think about that spiritual side of you, like, how did that feel? Lost. Oh my gosh. Yes. Of course, disconnected. Yes, so many of you wrote disconnected.
Wow. Disconnected
yes.
is in there like 6 times.
Thank you. Need for help. Okay, good. All right. Now, everybody do me a favor. Just go like this with your fingers right now, because now we have to wash away that feeling for a second. Because remember, the body remembers everything. So we've called up the mental picture of that. You can believe that. And we've called it up. And so for most of us, we have to be so careful about this to wash it away afterwards, because it's trauma, right? That's some kind of trauma that we've had in our experience of not doing something well. We got to wash it away now. And the way we really wash it away is by remembering and recalling a time where we did a really great job, something that went really well. And I want you to think about something that you did that went really, really, really well. Maybe it was a conversation with somebody, or maybe you, did a work plan and it went really well, or maybe you changed your career and you took a really big leap at first, and then boom, it started to happen. So tell me, what else would you add to that? What went well? Start with how you felt emotionally when you did something and it went well. Energized. Yeah, right. Okay, read that chat to me, would you, Jamie?
Sure, absolutely. We have exhilarated, elated, over the top, proud, happy, fun, grateful, empowered, unstoppable, excited.
Okay, good. Now, let's do this. Would you tell me then, what did you actually physically feel like?
Giddy, ease, tingly. I like that. Lots of energized, content, relaxed. Oh, I love it. Big, centered, Tigger bouncy.
All right, fantastic. Now, then tell me, what was your mental state after you had that experience?
Mental state. Yep, we're getting to that. I love the pie in the sky, superpowers. Let's see. Mental state, full of love, focused, open. Popcorning of ideas.
Oh, fantastic. And then how about
the world.
Spiritual state, or however you feel that in your world, whatever word you would use for that?
Yeah, I see sunshine forever, inspired, whole.
Okay. Fantastic. All right. So if we were to say, I love it, connected, omniscient. Oh my gosh, I love it that you felt omniscient. That's fantastic. Okay. So now really we have these two comparisons, right? And so one of the things that you can do is to compare those two things and see where you can still improve based on looking at those two things together. So it's just a real way to see, like, if you in this state when it was not going well and you didn't do well, what did you do? And then when it did go well, what did you do? What did you feel? And is there anything in there to give you information? And so we ask then a question like, what does this tell me? Right? Because when we look at things without judgment and we look at a pattern of any kind, then, and without judgment, it opens up to this abstraction part of ourselves. So look at the difference or the similarity between the two and ask yourself, what do I see here? What do I learn from this? And anybody who has anything they'd share from looking at that, feel free to put that in the chat. So really you can see those two things of feeling, mental state, physical state. I didn't ask you about the physical state, and so just be asking yourself the question here, like, what do I learn? What did I get from this? What do I see here? Where could I grow? I want more of the second, not more of the first. Yeah, that talks to number one is a pep talk. Oh, I love that. Look at the road ahead. We create our own experience. Emotion is important. Those were extremes. Oh, I love this. So this is really key, what you're talking about. Yes, these are extremes. And so we do try to take this, what I call the razor's edge. So this is where I'm always going for, the razor's edge, that I'm neither for nor against something, that really in this place, I don't think I'm so fantastic, and I don't think I'm so bad. I allow myself to fail faster so that I can learn and grow, right? One of the quotes I have from Oprah, right? She says, think like a queen. A queen is not afraid of failure. Failure, if you step out and you fail, you learn from it. And that equals greatness. Those are the stepping stones to greatness. And so using our imagination, it's always triggering us to take a different path. So looking at, and so this was kind of a test. How's your imagination work? Because you could all mock up a scenario, right? I don't like to be controlling. Yeah, that's a stressor. Yeah, have a strong vision of where we needed to be and passionately wanting to get everybody to that place puts me in a better place. Yes, fantastic. Okay, so we've got these places, so we know we can imagine. And so remember, the default when you're up against a situation like the past is for you to go back to that old way of thinking. And so how do we reroute our imagination? So a couple of things that we could do immediately to reroute the imagination is to envision a positive future. So even when you're in a fantastic place, to even envision a better future than that will actually propel you towards it, because envisioning anything new in a positive way increases the serotonin in your body, right? It increases that dopamine hit you get. And then when you start to take any action on it, it will change you. It changes everything you do. So right now, I was thinking that it would be fun if you, on this part, I want you to capture, let's imagine that it's 5 years from today, not just next year. Let's go 5 years out in the best case scenario, the best case scenario. And I want you to first start by thinking about how you will feel 5 years from today in the best case scenario. And you could do it related to where you work or what you do. You could do it related to your entire life, but I want you to envision some goodness out there of you, and then put into the chat a few words that I can capture up here, like I'm more creative, or I'm more valued, I'm more abundant, or I'm more, focused. And put there what the things are that you want. All right, so Joe put abundant, so let's put that. And what else are you feeling? Intentional, fulfilled. Thank you. Let's see what else we got in there. Yes, connected, accomplished, charitable. You can see I'm writing the words first, and then I'll draw some pictures, because it's hard to do both things at once, but you could do it. So we're going to be focused and intentional. We're going to feel fulfilled. We're going to have not just money, but we're going to have lots of friends, family. We're going to have love and place to live and shelter, and be able to reach out and help other people. Right. Okay, good. Now we've got these things. These are the feelings, right? And now I want you to get specific about it. So, you're there. What have you got? If you're in business for yourself, is that a 7-figure business? Is it that you have the relationship you've longed for? Is it that you're making your own movie? Is it that your team is aligned? Is it that you're the CEO, or that you're at a high level of leadership? What is it? In very specific terms, get specific for something that you'd really think would be an awesome goal. Maybe you have your own nonprofit. Maybe you've just met the person that you've always dreamed about meeting, right? Owning my own company. Thank you. What else is in the chat, Jamie?
Made a dent in solving climate change. Wow.
Okay, good. Oh, that's okay,
really
good. What else?
Mid-6-figure business aligned to my values. Considered an expert.
Okay,
Physically
fantastic.
fit, financially confident.
Okay, good. I love it. Okay, so you can see now, so the way that when we envision things, we think, oh, we're just envisioning it. Or, you know, a lot of people say, oh, vision board. Yeah, I've done that. Or, but let me just say that when you draw a picture of your vision and then you put it somewhere, you can see it every day, and you continue to reprogram yourself by feeling these feelings. This is actually what activates change in you, right? So then we tap into the RAS system, right? The reticular activating system. So it starts showing you everywhere you go. Everything you see is all the ways that you can become more of your best self, of this self. And so when we do this and we live this, and then we take action on it, it changes us. And the more that you can envision it and use your brain for you, it will replace the default, right? The default to the negative bias. And often, if you want to really do this well, that you envision this as if it's happening right now. And we always talk about this, that imagination is the force behind everything. Well, if you can imagine that everything is made up of energy, you're in charge of that energy. You're in charge of the energy when you walk into the room. I know many of you have been in meetings where somebody walks in and everybody goes, you know, like that. I've been in those meetings. I've facilitated some of those meetings. Scary, you know, because you really want to get that to a place where you can release that and everybody can get on the same page, which is why I started drawing pictures to begin with, because when you draw at that whiteboard, people get aligned. But part of what you need to realize is your energy is powerful. You carry it with you everywhere. And when you get up in the day, before you get out of bed, you want to set your frame for the best possible experience you can have. You know, Nikola Tesla would do that before he would go to sleep at night. He'd envision his day the next day. When he would write about his day, it's as if it had already happened, because the brain doesn't understand past, present, and future. So this is where you will be in 5 years. And part of what gets in the way is that we get in our way. We realize we don't think we're making progress. And they did a study, and I think some of you have probably heard this study, where there's a person with a map and they're asking for directions. Put your hand up if you've heard this study, where a person goes into the street, they ask someone for directions, and then a construction worker with a big door walks between the two of them, and the person with the map is replaced with a different person. And the person who is, giving directions with the map, pointing to the map, you go this way and that way. 60% of the people didn't realize the person was a different person. So that's why we don't realize when change is happening, because we're not programmed to see it. We're programmed to make sure we're safe. And so you have to turn up this imaginative, this abstraction faculty any chance you can get. So you begin to see the ways in which this is coming to reality, right? So you've got to get yourself out of that 60% and be one of those 40% people that notice, oh, that little thing happened. Okay, now, in order to get to this future you, which is out here, right? We've got to go through a few challenges, and some of those challenges have to do with this thing. But what do you think is one thing that you'd love to let go of, that is part of what you do and say and behave like, that you're ready to let go of, that I can put here? What do you think are challenges that you have to work through? Remember, I talked about, James Altucher was talking about the box that we live in. So what do you need to get out of? What part of the box? And the box sometimes is how you perceive yourself. Yes, thank you. Comparison, right? So comparison,
self-doubt, comparison, negative self-talk, anxiety and always rushing.
Thank you.
Fear, procrastination. Ooh, parents' voices.
Okay, fantastic. All right, good.
Being judgmental. For me, it's the feeling of being judged.
Okay, good. Fantastic. Being judged. Thank you. All right. These are fantastic. Now, so this is good for you to note what you need to go through. But now I want to bring the avatars up and get their help with a few of these things, because what's true is that when you're able to speak to an avatar about some of these things and practice being future you, you'll get better at it, right? And so one of the ways that we get ourselves to a place of getting to our best future self is by being curious about these things. So is there anybody that would be willing to be a participant so that the avatar could ask you a few questions about any of these things that are roadblocks for you, so we can get you to figure out just how to step more fully into future you?
Patti, because you said that the brain doesn't know the difference between past, present, and future.
That's right. The brain lives in the eternal now. It doesn't exist in time. It doesn't know past, present, or future. It believes that everything you've ever seen, heard, dreamed, watched in a movie, you had that experience yourself. That's what it thinks. And so since it thinks that way, why not live that way until you train the rest of you to catch up? Does that make sense? Dreaming that actually imprints it into your hippocampus, so it believes that's you. That's in your energy field now. And at the end, I'll give you a technique to do. All right. So Alina and Serena, do you want to ask some questions, Joe, some questions? Like first, Joe, you might just, tell them what was one of the obstacles that you thought was in your way.
I think I have a kind of, I can't, it's sort of whenever I think, yeah, I've got a great vision. It's like, oh no, well, I can't, that won't happen. And I kind of dampen down my energy.
And what would happen, when you imagine, what would happen if you changed can't to can? What would that look like? Or what might it look like,
Yeah, possibility, excitement. Yeah.
What did you say?
Possibility and excitement.
And how does that feel? Again, we were talking about earlier how it feels in your body. How does that feel when you think about all of the possibility and that excitement?
Really positive energy and kind of open.
Elena, anything from you?
I wanted to know, is that different from how you feel now? How would that impact how you feel about, how does that change? How does future you feel versus how you feel now?
Yeah, it's completely the opposite. I think when I go into that, I can't or it won't happen, I get sort of quite closed in and sort of heavy, damp down the energy. And then I just kind of put it in a box and forget it was there at all.
Oh, I love that. I love the idea of putting it in a box.
I love that. You're putting I can't in a box, so I can exist outside the box. It's a really beautiful and visual image for you to consider that you're going to box in. I would make that an action, right? That you're going to box in I can't. So that you make way for I can. And then one thing you might consider doing too is to track that. Track when your I can is happening so that you know what it feels like in your body. This is what they were asking you, how does it feel? Remember, feeling plus the vision is what marries it into your cellular structure. Feeling plus the picture marries it into your energy field. Okay, cool. That's fantastic. Thank you, Joe. Thank you so much.
Patti, while you were talking, especially about visualization, there's always been a visualization that's stuck with me. And that is the one, I'm not sure if you're familiar with this analogy, but there's an analogy of a boa constrictor and a saw. Like, I'm not sure the technical, which kind of saw, but it's constricting around a saw and it causes it pain, right? And it's cutting into it's cutting into its flesh and it's painful and it makes the snake angry. So it constricts even further and further and further around this thing that's hurting it until it eventually perishes. And the idea is that you have to kind of let go of that thing that creates pain and uncertainty for you in order to heal.
I
And
love
that visual for me
Elena.
has always been a really powerful one.
That is fantastic. That is fantastic. So letting go of that, so you're not constricting onto it.
Yeah,
Okay,
no,
cool.
I love that, Elena, and that kind of harkens back to what I was asking about, like the brain keeping everything in the now and believing it. So figuring out, like, using that imagination, using these techniques to let go of what we've embedded in the past that is painful and fearful and blocks us. And to your point, putting that in a box so that we work around it, that we can overcome that to move forward without taking that negative baggage with us is so beautiful.
Yes, I love that you can apply that to stories that you tell yourself about yourself, right? And that, stories change over time. I don't know if you've noticed, but it's better if you just change the story so you become the hero in the story versus the victim in the story. So shift it from something happened to me to it happened for me, so that I can move myself on to this next thing and put that
So good.
I can't into a box. All right, good. Thank you, Joe.
I love
Thank
how
you for
everyone's
coming up
writing
here.
that down. Patty,
Yeah.
that's so great. You said that something's happened for me instead of to me, and people are like, okay, note, we're taking that down.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, good. Tessa. All right. So tell us a little about what it is that you're that is blocking you so that the avatars can be curious.
Yeah, very sadly, a few weeks ago, my brother was killed. And so right now I'm so full of grief, and he was the closest person to me in my life. So I'm just in a place of very deep pain right now.
Tessa, I am so sorry.
Ah. And then
thank you for being vulnerable and sharing your pain with us today.
Yeah.
And just know that I can tell and I can see in the chat that we are sending our greatest energies and love and peace your way. And I mean, what an incredible challenge to have to overcome grief, Patti.
Yeah. That's why I thought I'd come in with a real kind of what's happened to me right now, because I just believe that I'm on this webinar for a reason.
Yes.
Season. I think being with Patti today is part of my healing, really.
What one of the things that I know about grief is that and this kind of grief that's so sudden and so unexpected, to allow yourself to be with that grief, right? That's part of it, is that not shove it down. But I'm curious, Serena and Elena, what questions do you have for her that might be helpful for her with this that she's dealing with?
I would be interested to know, we're talking about the future you, what knowing what you have on your plate now, what do you want for yourself moving forward? It's hard to see around grief, and I empathize with you so much. And my question is, what do you want for yourself 6 months from now?
Yeah, I want to begin to remember my brother with joy. And he was such an amazing person. He was very humorous and kind and caring and compassionate. And I would like to remember him in that thing and embody his presence in my life as I continue to see his kids, his children.
Yes. Tessa, I'm going to share with you that I also lost my eldest brother about 10 years ago, very suddenly. And when you said that, I felt it. We were talking earlier about where do you feel it? I felt it in my chest. My body got tight because I know that pain, and I'm so sorry that you're experiencing it. But I can tell you that, at least from my experience, you can get to that place of cherishing the memories. So again, thinking about that. what kind of memories are you thinking about? What memories are you going to create with his kids? What memories do you get to share with him? How does that feel when you think about that? Again, I know it's early. I know it's a lot, but if you had to, what does that feel like?
The memories of him just laughing, telling jokes,
Yes.
cooking.
Yeah.
He bakes, he loved baking. So baking, just the fun, joyful, happy person that he was.
Ah,
And just such a brilliant person, kind.
I can't wait for you to get there. I can't wait. It's going to be so wonderful. And the fact that you can imagine that right now
Mm.
is I'll say it's a wonderful thing. What else, Patty? What else would you like to hear?
Just the way that he envisioned the world, just to make the world a better place, like integrated place where people kind of like really care for each other. He didn't see borders. He saw bridges, and he bridged communities. Just such a loving human being. And it's how I can continue that thinking and that being, really.
And
I would
honoring
love
him
to invite
here.
that simply sharing him with us through your eyes today,
Yeah.
I think has helped already to expand that vision, because it reminds us the
Yes.
importance of living that life.
Mm.
And thank you for that. And I
Absolutely.
think as
Thank you for
continue
sharing
to
him with
do
us.
that,
Thank
you
you.
will do. And I love that you said he loved to bake. So I wonder if maybe that's something that in his honor you can bake with his kids. Invite
Yeah.
them, be a part of that, do something that he did alongside with them, to kind of feel his presence.
Yeah. I love this. Somebody suggests too, for you to share his stories, for their stories, to share those stories together. That really brings comfort to the children, as you're talking about here, and to people that loved him. I mean, what's true is that we assume, the body goes and then that's the end of it, but that's actually not at all. That's not how it works, that people are still around, that they're still here, and that we just can't see them. I know, after my mother transitioned out of this world, her favorite thing were these hummingbirds, and they would show up whenever I felt lonely and I wasn't sure what to have happen. A hummingbird would show up right there. And I encourage you to think about the things that he loved, and look in your world for ways in which he is reminding you that you're loved. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so you can feel that peace, because I think really love is the thing that heals our heart from loss. And the more open we can get to that, and imagining that him in a better place, whatever it is, right? Doing what he loved. I always think that people, when they transition sooner than me, I'm like, hey, how'd that happen? Like, I'm sometimes mad, and then I'm mad it's not me. I'm like, hey, why can I say that? Like, it should have been me, right? But what's true is that you and I, we're still here. We got stuff to do. We're still busy. We're still learning and growing. And he was ready to go. It was his time was over here in the physical world, but now he's into some other adventure. So, remember to ask in your dreams before you go to sleep at night, to dream about him so you can see him. And have the experience, so that you can just feel that love and know that he's okay, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I'm
remind
gonna-
those children of that too. Remind them.
Yes,
Yeah.
Thank you.
absolutely.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Thank
you're
you,
welcome.
Tessa, and thank you, Joe, for coming over and participating. I'm gonna. We've had a lot of ladies added to the conversation. We're gonna bring Joel over here.
All right, Joel. So there you get to meet Elena and Serena. So tell us, Joel, what's one of the things that you're dealing with? What's a challenge you've got?
Recently, I proposed to my management team what I felt was a much more effective way for our organization to move forward within learning and development. We have resources that are in a couple different lines of business, and we need to be able to share and utilize everyone's expertise regardless of what line of business we're supporting. And I've just gotten pushback after pushback. The lines of business want to control the learning and development professionals in their areas, and it's been very frustrating for me.
All right, so your issue is around frustration, right?
That is absolutely
And
correct.
not being able to make change at the rate that you want it to have happen. Okay, so that's good. All right, so let's let the avatars ask you a few questions about it so we can see what's in there. We can unpack it a little bit.
So, okay, I'm curious, when you've talked with the gatekeepers, as it were, what kind of pushback are you getting? And well, we'll start with that one question. What kind of pushback are you getting?
So the pushback I'm getting is we are concerned that we are going to lose the resources for the needs that we have, which we currently don't have near enough people to handle. And my focus is, well, there are other people in the organization that we could bring in and share. And then when we get through our litany of training needs, then we can go and share with them. So, but she doesn't want to, quote, risk losing us.
There's been a pattern that I've noticed here. So like, there's a very strong, seems like there's a very strong point of view of what she has, where she's coming from and where you're coming from. What would it look like if you had to, and what would it sound like if you were coming from her lens? Like if you totally embodied what she was saying, what would that sound like? How do you seek to understand where she's coming from to better get her to understand where you're coming from? I hope that makes sense.
It makes sense. And I'm not sure if this really answers that question, but she's coming from managing a line of business and doesn't understand that in learning and development, I'm never going to be an expert in her line of business. I don't want to be an expert in her line of business. I want to take what I'm an expert at, which is learning and development, designing, developing, facilitating L&D opportunities. And I work with subject matter experts in the business, but she wants to manage us as if we are a part of that business. So again, I don't know if that answered your question.
That's a fantastic thing. And do either of you have a follow-up? Because if you don't, I do.
I do not.
Okay, I do. All right. So Joel, what I know about what you just said is that's your entry point. That's your entry point to change the situation. You have it. So part of it is that she wants you to become part of her business. Well, let's imagine that you actually were part of her business. Let's pretend that you are part of her line of business. How could you use understanding her business thoroughly to get her to see your point of view? That's an entry point. So think about what your resistance is to understanding her line of business. I'm curious about that. Why do you resist that? I mean, yeah, that would be going back to be like an HRBP, right? That she's asking you to go from this place of OD to being an HR business partner in a way, right?
Yeah. You know what, that's a great insight. And that makes some sense. I guess maybe I have to figure out a better way to position my thought process.
Well, I would say it'd be great to unpack with her,
right.
Spend time understanding her line of business. Then you're totally armed with solutions.
Yeah, so
Right?
so I already know her line of business. I mean, I'm not an expert of, but I know her line of business.
Have you ever mapped it out before,
The
like I
difference.
did? Have you ever mapped it out like this, like drawn it?
No, I have not. That I have not. And that
Okay.
obviously is an assignment for me right now. The one thing, and I know we're coming up against time, is that the individuals that I know that are part of learning and development are attached to other lines of business. They're not in HR. So it's almost like I want to form all lines of business learning and development organization, not tied to HR where we get lost in talent acquisition and recruit, all those different things.
Okay, good. Wow, this is fantastic.
It's focused on the business.
Yeah, right.
But it doesn't matter which line of business, because that way we would be interchangeable.
I do understand that. And one thing that I think might be, I'm curious about this, like if this were me, I would like envision that thing that you said, of that OD, right? Organizational learning, that it was part of that bigger thing, right? Because early on when I was working with Boeing, my big thing was to try to get somebody at Boeing to be an in-house illustrator. There was a guy who worked there. He was such a great illustrator. I wanted that guy to get that. And eventually they set up a whole business unit just on illustration. So part of it is knowing that you have some mindset shift that needs to occur here. I'd look at that. And this other thing about all lines of business, anything the avatars would add.
I'm going to go back to using your imagination. I would like to imagine if you were able to imagine where she's coming from. I know you understand it, but if you were able to imagine really agreeing with it, what that would look like. And again, putting yourself in that place of, we do see eye to eye, we do understand each other. What does that look like? How do we get to that win?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I would offer. I don't know if Lena, if you have anything else, but that's where I'm coming from.
Yes,
I would like to,
yeah.
oh,
Go ahead, Jamie.
Sorry, Elena.
I think, for me, the biggest takeaway that I've gotten from Patty's presentation is just kind of looking at that end goal and really visualizing it fully. And I agree with Serena on that. What does it look like? Yeah. What does that solution, what is it going to look like for the both of you? I think maybe really doing a visualization exercise in that regard might help find the path and kind of reverse engineer it from there.
Yeah, because you're fantastic, and we need you. So just go back, spend a little time with that, and merge with her. There's a technique called Vajrayana, and that is where you envision yourself as that person, and you visualize them so clearly so that you merge with them and you understand their perspective. And so you can do this, anybody, you can do it with somebody that you really want to become, right? If you think that you are the next Oprah, you are the next whoever, Benjamin Hardy, PhD, you are the next, you simply put that person in front of you, you envision them as fully as you can, and then you allow yourself to step into their shoes so that you learn and grow from that perspective, because we're all connected. So if you can understand their perspective, then you can know the way that you'll find the way to your next step.
Joel, I'm just wondering, Patty, what do you think of, because we talk about, and thank you, Serena, thank you, Elena, for great insight.
Thank you very much.
And Joel for coming on, and we talked to Joel about sort of envisioning what that looks like from her side, which I think is fantastic. And that's sort of what we do in our conversations, is helping people to communicate and empathize and see something from another's perspective, right? But I also wonder if you can take this visualization technique and help her imagine what that would look like, working with you on that goal that you're going towards, so that she understands you're not trying to take away from her line of business. You're trying to better support her business, and that you can do that in a greater way and tap into her expertise and everyone else's to make sure that everyone is learning across the board and you're supporting the organization as a whole. to just help her in to visualize that as well.
And that is definitely my assignment.
Yes. So good luck to you, my friend. I appreciate you.
Thanks for coming up.
Patti Dobrowolski, you are a
That was
creative
fantastic.
genius.
Thank you to
for
the
helping us
avatars.
up our creative genius
so
along the
welcome.
way. A special thanks to Elena and Serena for joining us, and Patti. We are going to follow up. Make sure you check out Up Your Creative Genius. Patti has TED Talks out there that will blow your mind. Check them out. Go to her website. She's got all sorts of fabulous courses and things. And we love having you here. Thank you. Thank you. And we love having all of you, my fabulous attendees. Thank you for sharing your time and your space and your future and your imagination and your vulnerability. We appreciate you, and we will see you next week. Bye-bye, everybody.